part 4 of the time when I became a Jehovah's Witness, only to marry a member of the congregation and to find out later that he is in fact a pedo. And before I continue on where I left off, I just want to preface a few things. I am well aware there's 8 billion people in the world. There are good people and there are evil people. I am not speaking on behalf of all J-dubs. I'm just particularly talking about my personal experience. And I know that I'm not alone in my personal experience, and there's other people out there who have seen horrific things. Okay. So he's talking about the upskirt videos and photos that he was taking at the retail locations. And then he pivots and talks about how it didn't just stop there. It also was something he has been doing in the congregation with the sisters as well. And we're talking about children and then sisters as old as 70 years old. My husband was an opportunist, and so if there's an opportunity for him to be a deviant, he was going to exercise that opportunity to the best that he could. And he would go into detail about how he would place his phone a certain way, so that way he can try to get somebody walking over his phone and try to get something on his camera. So as he was going into detail about these things, the way in which he was describing it and telling me all these details was as if he was getting excited about sharing these details with me, kind of like he was reliving this experience. And I know you guys have seen this on YouTube and docuseries about how criminals and those who commit insane crimes will actually get off on reliving those details and discussing those details. And that's what it felt like to me in this moment, because he was sharing details no one even asked him for. While this is going on, I remember standing up, going down the hallway and going into our bedroom, and I closed the door behind me and I locked the door. And I remember experiencing every type of emotion you could possibly experience. I wanted to throw something, but I couldn't throw it. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't scream. I wanted to burst out in tears, but I couldn't burst out in tears. I felt so many emotions, but I was incapable of expressing any. So instead, my body just went down into a deep depressed state, and it lasted for a few days. I called off work. I wasn't eating. I wasn't drinking. I was a shell of myself. But I knew I needed to get this information and get this information out there. But I had to go to somebody. And so I ended up actually going and reaching out to my mom. Those that know do not have a relationship with my mom. At the time, while this was happening, I was really trying to make space for her, despite how much she had hurt me. I was trying to extend love to somebody who I knew didn't love me back. My mom recommended me seeing a psychologist just because of the emotional distress and the state I was in. So I did so. I booked an appointment with a psychologist who was within our community. And then I booked that session probably 2 days from that conversation with my mom. So remember, all this is happening in the same week, you guys. It's not like this is all still within the same week. And so I booked that session, and hindsight being 2020, red flag number 1 in that session was the fact that the psychologist seemed much more curious about meeting with my husband than he did about helping me process the emotions that I was going through. And how I know this is because he had said something. He said, I typically have worked with individuals when they're in their 60s or 70s who are doing these things. I have yet to actually work with an individual where you catch it really early, like your husband's age. Would you mind bringing your husband in so that way I can sit and meet with both of you so I can learn more how I can best help you guys? So at the time I was like, okay, sure. So I went back, told my husband, gave him 2 tasks. The task number 1, we're going to go and sit with a psychologist. Task number 2 is you're making a call to the elders. If you don't, I will, but this is going to be made known. Long story short, after hyperventilating and crying because he was afraid more of the consequences and had no concern with what he actually did and how he harmed people, he ended up making that call on speaker so that I could see that call was happening. He ended up making that call to the elder. The elder was obviously really confused. He was just kind of like, what's going on, kids? But he gathered up the elders, and we would eventually schedule a meeting with the elders. The elder ended up scheduling a meeting with us and the other elders a week after that call. Before we had the meeting with the elders, we had our very first session together with a psychologist. It brought more information that I was able to then share with the elders. And I will talk about what was revealed and how that first meeting went with the elders in the next part.